All right, guys, we are live here today with Chris Bounds. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Sorry that I hit you up last minute with the calendar invite, but I really appreciate you coming. I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago and been excited to get you on the show. Hey, what you been up to?
Had donuts this morning with kiddo right before school, gym, and buying some multifamily properties.
Multifamily properties. Okay. Yeah. All right. So as you know, the show is called Trigger Points, and we talk about how people got their start and how they ended up where they are at today, to hopefully help some of the people out there in the crowd kind of get past the nervousness of of doing their first deal and making that leap, or what that trigger point was to get you to where you're at today. So I guess start from the beginning.
If we're gonna go way back, like my grandfather built a business. He had like 300 employees. Mm-hmm. So he was like, if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, he was that. He lived that way before that concept was ever on paper. So just by observation, I witnessed that he had rental properties all over Central Texas and farmland and all that. And even my parents had a rental property. I remember as a kid going to, like, in between tenants, going there, and I'd help like clean up trash and brush and all that stuff, when the tenants tend to leave behind. So I remember doing all that. Always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Went to Texas A&M University, doing the whole college thing. And it was about senior year, I think it was it was junior year, I think over Christmas break, something like that I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Someone recommended it to me, read that book, and then it's like, boom, all of a sudden, like, it put everything into perspective. Mm-hmm. And I read that book thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be rich. And now, if you've never read the book, highly recommend it, but it's macro, like big picture. It puts things that you probably are thinking anyway about money. It's not a real estate book. It's a money book. Yeah. It's a finances book, but it put in perspective. But the actual in the trenches how-to book doesn't talk about any of that. So I had to figure that out, and kind of bumped and bruised my way along, and ended up finding a mentor. And that's what led me to the very first house.
Okay. So you said you bumped and bruised a little bit. So can we talk about that a little bit? Because there's a lot of people out there in the world that get bumped and bruised. And I think honestly, they would want to hear your story. Like, what were your bumps and bruises?
So again, reading the book, I'm super motivated now, and my business partner, we knew we needed to invest. We knew we wanted to invest in real estate, but what do we do? So we ended up calling a realtor to go look at houses.
It's not a bad plan.
No, it's not. And my whole strategy was, I'll just make offers on 100 houses, and eventually I'll get one that's willing to sell it to me at a discount. And you can do that, but there's a better way to go about it. But ultimately, I feel sorry for the guy. It was an older gentleman. He was very, very loyal, hands-on, but we were never going to buy a house. I had no job. I couldn't even get it. This is funny. So it talks about personal finance and your financial statement and Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I'm like, cool, I need to make a financial statement. I'll bring it to the lender, and I'll show them what we're going to do. We're going to buy these rental properties, get tenants to pay for the house. And I literally have no job, no credit. I'm in college. And I get this financial statement, and it's like, assets minus liabilities. Well, my assets are, I've got a truck, I've got a desk, and a computer. And I write that down. As a college kid, I'm like, all right, that's cool. What are my liabilities? I had a credit card, but that was about it. And I remember bringing that to the bank and just talking about financing options for rental properties, not knowing that you actually need a stable job to be able to qualify for these mortgages. I just thought you could just buy a rental property, like tenant's going to pay for it. Well, why wouldn't they loan me the money? And I remember handing him this financial statement that he looked at me, blank face, very professional. And he goes, okay, thanks. I'll be right back. And I'm sure he went in the back and like told all of his like loan officer buddies, like, you can't believe this kid that's in my office. But anyway, it's a funny story. But ultimately, what it came down to is I found the education I really needed.
And who was that with?
It was a bandit sign, so just those little yard signs, and it was a guy that said like real estate millionaire looking for a student or looking for a mentee. Again, I'm young, kind of naive. Ended up taking the course. It was $1,500, which I didn't have. I put on my credit card, and
that's not a lot of money, though. I mean, if you think about it.
No, this is 2005. I mean, it's a lot of money to me.
Well, of course, at that time,
I have no money. So it was straight on the credit card. But this is what I say. Like what he was teaching at the time. This is 2005, so it's on that run up, like foreclosures. It's kind of a hot market. And he was teaching knocking on doors for pre-foreclosures in Texas. You got 21 days prior to the sale. So a bank up to 21 days, they can file a foreclosure. Then on the first Tuesday of the month, it goes to auction. But if you can buy it before it goes to auction, then you could potentially get a much better deal. That's what I was teaching. Get these lists from the county records and just go knock on doors. So I jokingly say, as a 21-year-old kid, I was dumb enough to believe everything he said. And I did it. And 3 months later, I got my first deal. We bought it for it was like $15,000, 2005 prices. It was worth about 90 in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio was the only county in the nation like fully online at the time. So in my dorm room at A&M, when my buddies were out drinking, I'd be looking up pre-foreclosures, charting out lists. There was no Google Maps, so I'd had like the huge foldable map, and I'm drawing dots on all the houses that I'm gonna go tour. Drive to San Antonio early Saturday morning, knocking doors all day. I didn't have money for a hotel. Drive back, and then on Sunday, oftentimes go back again. Did that for 3 months straight. And I finally, it was like the Roadrunner or the Coyote that finally catches the Roadrunner. It was the last house on the list. And knock on the door, the gentleman walks out, older guy, and just say, hey, we just kind of stopped by to see if maybe we could help out with the house. And then he looks at me and he goes, how can you help me? And then I'm like, oh crap, what do we do? So we just have a conversation and ended up setting a separate meeting with the mentor that taught us how to do this. And he went out there and helped negotiate the deal. It was about 15 grand we bought it for, worth 90. It needed a decent amount of work. We closed on it and ended up, what I didn't know the term, but wholetailing basically to another investor as is. And I think because we split the proceeds, I probably made around 20 or so.
That's not bad for your first deal.
No job. Like I'm rich. Like paid for my $1,500 course and some. So it was, that was the first deal. It was fun.
So question for you. How nervous were you? During that whole process, that whole 3-month process, what was your mindset to keep you going back to San Antonio every weekend to do that?
It's funny. I think if I did it today, I'm probably more nervous today than I was then, just because I'm not knocking on doors now. I'm sure the very first few doors that I'm knocking on, like I'm pretty nervous. And like, how's a 21-year-old kid going to buy some 30, 40, 56-year-old person's house? Like, what are they gonna think when they see me at the door? And I remember one of the first doors that I knocked on, they had the front door open, but they had their like the glass storm door. And so I ring the doorbell, and the guy's sitting. You can straighten on the hallway. He's sitting in the living room on the couch watching TV, and he does this. I'm like, all right.
Is he coming to the door? Is he not going to come to the door?
And I remember another one where they're watering their lawn, which those would actually made me the most nervous when they were outside. I'd rather just knock on the door. It was that, I don't know, barrier, but when he was actually outside, so now I have to approach him and have this awkward conversation to someone who's in financial stress. And he was like, get the F off my property. Which I get, I don't blame any of them for that, but those were made me a little nervous, but
I'm sure they did. I mean, but your mindset was, I've got to, I want to.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I want to get this done. But what got you to the mindset of, I'm hungry, I want this? What was it? It was your dad, work ethic. What was that?
I remember being in my college dorm. Because I was in the Corps Cadets and they had study hall.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck in there for like 2 hours. I have to study, and it was during probably the spring. So even though it's the evening, it's like bright and sunny outside. I'm looking at my door and I see the upperclassmen out there like playing soccer or something. I'm like, this freaking sucks. Like, I enjoyed the experience of A&M. The schooling, not so much. I don't like being kept in a box.
Yeah.
And the thought of being kept in a box in a traditional job, that was never for me.
Scared you.
Yeah. I mean, to a degree.
Yeah.
I just knew that was not for me. I wanted to make sure that I was in control of my own journey. I had bigger goals, and I knew that a job was not security. And I was never going to let that happen.
You know, I don't know if you watch Grant Cardone, but he talks about that a lot. He talks about like your parents, they basically drive that. Most parents drive that into you. Like, you know, a penny saves, a penny earned. You got to work your way up. You know, you got to start at the bottom. He's like, and they drive that, and it's just ingrained in us, you know, all throughout, you know, our childhood and teenage years, when in actuality, your parents should be teaching you like, hey, what can you do to grow generational wealth, you know, because I failed, you know, or I didn't accomplish what I need to accomplish, but what can we do to get you where you need to be?
Yeah. I mean, most parents, they do, they'll do the best they can within the framework they had. I mean, they're learning through their.
I'm not saying your parents. I'm just.
Yeah. But that's a good subject, because they'll do the best from their own experience, and then of course how they were parented. And I was blessed. Grandfather was hardworking entrepreneur from the Great Depression era.
Okay.
This is a guy who took 18 hours of college and then had a full-time job and still managed to get a 4.0 in an engineering field.
Oh wow.
Especially
during that time. I mean, that was a rough time.
Correct. Went into the Navy. So and then my dad worked for my grandfather, was VP of the company. My mom, she had some side little, you know, home-based businesses here and there, but she was very, very involved in our life, in our extracurricular and our schooling. So working hard was very much a part of how I was brought up. And even though I didn't like schooling, I worked hard to get because it didn't come natural to me. I'm not a A+ student.
Yeah.
I'm a C student that worked hard for a B+.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why I had to fight to get into A&M. And then my buddies that got in on scholarship dropped out.
Oh, wow.
Dropped out because like freshman year, because they couldn't hack it, because they didn't have to work for it in high school. I had to work for it in high school. I had to work to make my SAT and whatever the other one was.
ACT and SAT.
So I knew that I went to A&M, like I was gonna have to work my butt off.
You still had that mentality. Look, I'm gonna have to work. I'm gonna have to work harder now.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what parents really should teach. It's the work ethic.
Yeah.
Now, should every kid, or not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Like, this is not for the faint of heart. Not everyone's capable or even would enjoy being their own boss, setting their own schedule, having the highs. Like, hey, like this month, we're going to have $120,000 gross month. Like, great. Last month wasn't anywhere near that. Like, that will drive people insane. And even my wife, because she grew up more traditional, that's not her favorite part of the business.
No, it's not my wife's either. I will tell you that. She's like, she'll ask me mid-month. I'm like, look, relax, okay? So don't worry about it. I've learned that I cannot tell her how the month is going until the last 2 days.
Yeah.
Like if it starts off slow, I'm better to keep my mouth shut, but she could see the stress on me. I'm like, oh, it's okay. We just, everything's fine. Don't worry about it. She's like, you're lying. She's like, is it going to be a good month, a bad month? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I was like, everything's going to be fine regardless.
Yeah, so we're going to make it happen.
We're going to make it happen.
But not everyone's capable of doing that, because you can flip to the other side. Like, I know an investor in Houston today who's worked the same job for, 15, 20, maybe plus years. Mm-hmm. He works a job. The dude is a multi-millionaire because he's worked his job. I'm sure he gets paid very well, but he's also started some side businesses and invested in businesses and invested in real estate all along the way. Like, anyone can do that. So if you really want to be a COO or a sales manager at, some engineering firm or some oil and gas, out in the rig, just making bukus money, like, you can do that and invest on the side passively and still be very successful. I just took the entrepreneur route because that's the only way
Well, there's, what I've found over the last 6 years is there's a lot of people that really hate their job.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are out there that are like, man, I cannot stand.
More than half.
Yeah, more than half. I mean, and the whole reason they get into this is because they're like, man, I've got to get to financial freedom. Mm-hmm. I've got to get away from this 9-to-5 grind where I hate my boss. I hate going into work. Even now in the last year that COVID has hit, there's a lot of people like, I don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can find better ways of making money.
Yeah.
And
you can flip that too. So say that person that hates their job, they're making $120,000 a year, nice income. Mm-hmm. Would they trade that for $65,000 a year and be really happy, knowing that they have a podcast on baseball and they create some brand and they're selling some T-shirts and whatnot. They're doing a couple of knick-knack things, but they're happy making 65. Is that happiness extrapolated over 30, 40, 50 years? Is that worth it? They'll have to make that decision. Most won't because of fear.
Yeah.
Or there's the one that they'll actually go out and take the COVID opportunity where they either get laid off or they decide to bounce and they work on the thing that they really love and they explode it. Well,
there's a couple of people that I follow, and this is very powerful. Yesterday, I actually watched this. They said, imagine being on your deathbed the night before your death. And because, you fast forward to that moment, you only got a few breaths left in you. And you've got all the memories that you had. Are you going to be disappointed in what you've done and have that pain that you could have done more with your life? Or are you just going to sit for the next 40, 50, 60 years that you have left and try to experience those experiences instead of just doing the same thing that you've done because of safety?
And it's easy. Yeah. Gary Vee, he's talked about that. He's like, if you really want perspective of time, go to an old folks home.
Yeah.
Go to a retirement home and have honest conversations about them and their reflections.
Yes.
And what you will hear, you say, well, it'll humble you.
Everybody's going to have regrets.
Correct.
I mean, everybody, especially when you get to the end. To minimize those regrets, you've got to do. I mean, heck, I got regrets right now, and I'm 45 years old. I spent 21 years in the military. I think it was a very safe route, but knowing what I know now, I'm like, geez, I wasted. I don't think it's a waste because I served my country and stuff. But if I could go back and maybe do something different, I missed out on having a family. I missed out on having all this stuff. But, you also have to look at it as, your path. I wouldn't have the family I have right now because, it would if I would have gone a different route, I would have met somebody else, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. But I think the way to look at it is more of like today, right now, sit and reflect, no distractions. Like, do I really, really like what I'm doing and where I'm at? And if that answer is no, what are things that I do like and would rather be doing? And how can you get from point A to B?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean go quit your job, but maybe it does. Like if your job is causing you to have stress to where you're probably gonna have a heart attack in the next 5 years, I mean, taking that $45,000 job instead and living an extra 20 years probably better. But you'll have to make those decisions,
Yes.
or you don't. You let fear, you let what's easy, and you just go into that same old routine every day for the rest of your life, and you become that 80-year-old who tells your great grandson, "Live your life to the fullest," and you give them the advice that you never followed yourself.
And we all hear it from our grandparents. I heard it from my grandparents. You gotta, I mean,
because time's the greatest asset. Right?
Time's the greatest asset. But they also, I don't think generationally that they give vague advice, not direct advice. And I think that the outcome of that is that our generation, and below or above, if they have kids, you've got to give the right advice, not just live your life to the fullest. You got to say, this is how you live your life to the fullest. This is, if you don't want to do this is what you're going to have to do. I think that's where a lot of people are missing the boat, and growing generational wealth, but it's shifting because people like us, people like you, people like, all the guys that we know are changing their kids and their generational outcome.
Yeah, I mean, the social media has definitely made access to information a lot easier. Like when we were growing up, like unless you knew someone like that, or you just happened to stumble upon a book, you may have had the desires, but you would have very little context to it.
I'll tell you, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I mean, I'm a 76er. So there was no computers, there was no internet. I didn't know the first thing about real estate except you went to a realtor to buy a house. That's the only thing I knew when I was younger. I like, hey, you want to buy a house? You go to a realtor.
Well, I mean, I grew up in the sticks, but I remember when I was at A&M and I'm on this entrepreneur journey, and I'm telling my buddies, and like deer in the headlights, like literally, like all they know is, I'm gonna get a job, like literal deer in the headlights. And but today it's different. Like A&M has an entrepreneur center, and a lot of colleges do. And of course, you can basically get almost a degree on that on YouTube if you want to search and watch enough videos. But
it's funny. My mom, she always calls me and asks me, "How do you do this? How do you do that?" I was like, "Mom, look. You don't have to wait to call me. There's this thing called YouTube." She's like, "I know what YouTube is." I was like, "All you have to do is how to do this." And it'll give you a instructional video on how to do it. She's like, "I'm going to go try it." Now she never calls me and asks me anything. I'm like, well, you can still call me. Yeah. But it's funny because, I told my mom, I was like, look, if you wanted to go back to school, you could from your bedroom. She's in her 80s, but we just laugh about that stuff all the time.
So that is funny because prior to that information, like you had to learn it.
Yeah.
Now it's all at your fingertips within seconds. Or maybe even less than that. So that's devalued college. And I mean, a lot of people have strong opinions on that. I'm not saying college isn't important. And a lot of that depends on the type of field you want to go in. You want to be a surgeon. I mean, you're probably going to want to go through what someone actually has gone through school, not someone who watched it on YouTube.
I don't think I want somebody operating on me that's watched it on the YouTube channel 5 hours prior.
No. But there's so many fields out there that you can watch that stuff, like how to code, how to. I was fixing I think it was a pressure washer. I had to take out the carburetor, and like I have zero like hands-on skills to that, but I was able to watch a video and figure out how I could take the whole thing apart and put it back on. And
I tell you, to speak on just something like, I know you probably know that I've lost a lot of weight, and I've gotten back into fitness. I was really heavy into it in the military in my early 30s. But now there's so much information access on, bodybuilders giving tips and stuff like that. They're just giving away information for free. You can sit on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, anything you want to learn how to work out better, how to eat better, how to be more efficient just in your own health than you could, 15, 20 years ago. And I think that's a testimonial because it was like,
and that's in real time too.
Yeah, real time,
because some latest breakthrough comes out on fitness to help you burn fat faster or whatever. Like, you're going to see that in real time versus the education in a health and fitness course at a university is going off information 10, 20 years ago
in a book,
and it's going to take another 5-10 years before that to permeate through the system and get approved. And it's further reason why I think college is it's ripe for disruption. Not that it's going to go away, but just change and evolve.
Well, I mean, they are starting to change and evolve and have more online courses, and you can get degrees online. And I think, I mean, eventually the college experience, I say, is, and this is still my view on it. I did not go to college. I took courses I wanted to take. I am college educated. I don't have a degree, but I took about 90 hours of stuff I wanted to take, stuff that I thought was going to be beneficial in my growth through life, you know?
So you didn't take the Aborigines archaeology?
History. I didn't take. I took some history courses because I was born on the 4th of July. I'm very patriotic. I took some history courses so I knew where we came from as a independence in the United States. I took that stuff like that. But I will tell you, you're absolutely right when you say that colleges are changing. People are like, hey, Grant Cardone says don't go to college, and he's preaching that, and I could be a billionaire if I do this, this, and this. Well, I mean, heck, we got a guy on our team that is basically 18 years old. He's with Roughnecks to Real Estate, and he's bought his first house at 18 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
not going to learn that in college.
You're not. And he's got a goal that he's going to buy 10 houses within the next year. Yeah. And I'm like, go kill it, buddy. Yeah. Go kill it. And
so you take 80 grand. And again, this all depends on where you want to go in your field, but you can take 80 grand. Like, what to be able to learn actual tactical skills in various fields, that you can learn that with in a sheer fraction of that cost online. So if it was real estate, maybe you go to Grant Cardone University. I've never taken it, so I don't know anything about
we're in it right now.
Okay, so and I like Grant, but but there's various courses. If you want to go into real estate on the retail side, you can go get a real estate license and then hook up with a team and work kind of as an apprentice on someone's team that's going to show you how to do that. If you want to be a carpenter, same thing. So I think trade schools, online courses, you can get the much more powerful and tactical information and skills. Because ultimately, when it comes to, if you're working for Google, they're looking at a 21-year-old kid with a Stanford degree, or a 19-year-old kid, no degree,
and knows how to code.
But he's got the coding experience, and he worked at 2 startups, one of which went to 1.5 million. Like, Google does not require a college degree for a lot of their fields.
I think I'd take the guy that has the experience and it did 2 startups and made money.
Experience trumps education.
Yeah, it does. Every time. Life experiences. It's so much, because I mean, it's.
That's why the second lieutenant has to listen to a sergeant major, right?
That's the absolute truth. Yeah. Like, sir, I respect you. I respect your rank, but I work for the boss, and the boss tells you what to do. Yeah. So don't tell me what to do, because you're going to listen to my experience here. Yeah. But that's just how it is. So you like everybody else, and I consider you to be one of the most successful people I know in real estate. You, Jason Bible, all of y'all have been you were at one point in time a very nervous person about real estate.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know the unknown. I did it for all I know. If I could knock on the door, someone could shoot me.
Yeah. But you had the right mindset. You made that leap, and you kept consistent in what you were doing, and it paid off over time.
Mm-hmm. Here's one easy thing that I don't remember what book it was. Yeah, I have no idea. But so what's the worst thing can happen in whatever it is, whether it's, I don't know, fitness, like going to the gym for the first time, if they're overweight and nervous about it, or if it's knocking on doors, cold calling. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen? You could die. Yeah. Which in most circumstances is not a possibility. But if that wasn't a possibility, now what's the next worst thing?
Somebody tells you no.
If someone tells you no, like, okay, it's not about you. It's about them in that situation
and their own insecurities.
Correct.
At that time.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you because you're trying to do the right thing for you and for potentially the client by getting them out of a financial situation that they can't handle. But their insecurities are the reason why they told you no.
Yeah.
The perfect example that you just used as well is going to the gym for the first time after many years. I'll show you a picture after this, but my wife posted it the other day. It was one of the reasons why I started on my journey for health and fitness again. One, I got COVID, and I was hearing about people dying because they were overweight, and that scared me. And I got COVID, and I was like, the whole time I had COVID, I was like, this is it. It never happened. I never had the bad symptoms. I never had anything that was what I consider horrible. But the whole time I had it, I was like, the next day is going to be the turning point, the next day. And living in that fear was probably, I've been deployed 5 times, but the fear of what the next day could bring with COVID was the scariest thing. And I took a couple of months to make sure I was okay, that I could get back into this health and fitness thing. I went to the cardiologist. I went to my primary doctor a couple of times. And then I just started looking at some pictures, and I said, I got to do something about this.
It's a turning point. Yeah. So it's a point in time. There's another phrase that it's Trump. It's skipping my mind. So it's a moment in time that, boom, you had a reality check.
Yeah.
And it can happen in finances, health, your job, or anything else, relationships. But it's at pattern interrupt. It's a pattern. So you had a pattern interrupt that now put new perspective. But what are you going to do about it? You did something about it. A lot of people don't. They let that pattern interrupt. They'll fester about it. They know what they should do, but then they just go back to their original pattern.
And it's hard. It's hard to train yourself to do something different.
How long was that really hard? So getting back in the fitness in a matter of weeks, because I imagine the first few days.
You don't see results of the first few days.
But it was probably pretty rough though. Like,
it was
exhausting.
It was exhausting. Alex had been begging me to go see this doctor that for testosterone replacement therapy. He said you probably got your hormones are imbalanced, and I knew that was already the case. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he'd been begging me for years ago, and I finally said, okay, look, I'm going to go see him. Okay. Cause maybe he can put things in perspective that nobody else can. I took a Friday off. I drove all the way to Paris, Texas. We spent 10 minutes talking about hormones. Mm-hmm. We spent another 40 minutes talking about food and what you consume. And he put it into perspective like nobody else had. And he said, food is 95% of your fitness.
It's funny how that works.
And I'm like, at first I was like, that makes no sense. I was like, you eat so you can grow. He's like, no, you're eating the American diet so you can grow outward, not stronger. And I mean, I literally 45 minutes about what he eats, what he does, how he eats, how he food preps. And no other guy, I mean, his arms, huge, slender.
Not your average.
Not your average doctor that you walk in and look. I mean, this guy could be the next Captain America. I mean, great guy. And he put everything into perspective for me. And I'm like, okay, I got it. So I went home immediately. And that night me and my wife, I was like, this is what he said. This is what I got to cut out. She's like, I've been telling you that ever since we got married. You just don't listen to me. All you want to do is eat Oreos.
But that's you third-party validation. It's always true. And especially when it's dealing with a spouse, because your spouse isn't smarter than you, so why would you listen to them? But so someone else says it, and like,
she is much smarter than me.
Anyway, but yeah, so that third party validation. But so I had that same in COVID too. I'm reflecting back. So I had a pattern interrupt. COVID happened. I was already in good shape, but you're hearing that, the better shape you are, the better you could go through it. But also from a business perspective, I realized like, hey, I need to be top of mind because the world could be ending. I don't know what's going on. Like, I think
everybody feared that.
We all did. And I remember Tony Robbins, he always talks about peak state. So I actually cut out alcohol. I was eating super clean. I couldn't go to the gym because they're all shut down. So I was running and working out in my garage. And then I was making sure I was getting plenty of sleep to stay in peak state. So that way, during my time, I can actually put forth the best performance.
Yes.
And but it was back to that little wake up call, that pattern interrupt. And then you can create those pattern interrupts. It's just a thought.
Yeah, it's all about mindset, and I think that's what a lot of new investors are missing is you've got to change the way you think. I talked to a lady this last Saturday. She called me. She's in desperate need of guidance, and I could tell that by the phone call that we had. She did not know what to do. She had no clue. She had an investment property she sunk all of her money into. It's been sitting there for 4 months, completed rehab, had no guidance on where to go, what to do. And she called me.
Was it on the market?
No, it was not on the market. Well, no, it was on the market, and she had an offer sitting in her inbox for 4 weeks. Let me get to the story. So she had been talking to somebody else, and they were clearly not giving her the correct information. So I said, okay, you've got two choices. You got either one, you make a decision today. I'm going to sign that contract, or two, we get you started on a cash out refinance to get some money back in your pocket.
Yeah.
I was like, those are your two options. I was like, you can explore both, but you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. A week's gone by. She signed the contract, and we're exploring cash out refinance options as well. So in case this contract bust out, we can go directly into cashing it out.
Yeah. Not
and I told her, I was like, your mindset is set on failure right now. And I was like, I'm just going to be direct with you as possible. You have
because of indecision.
Yeah, and your indecisiveness is setting you up for failure. You've got to, whether it be good, bad, indifferent, you've got two ways to approach this. You need to figure out and be a problem solver for yourself and say, okay, which direction is best for me?
Yeah.
Do I want to deal with a tenant? If not, then I put a property management company in place. Do I want a tenant, or do I want to rent it out and use this as a long-term investment? That's another path. Or B, you just sell it and put that money back in your pocket so you can go do more deals and leverage yourself. And within a week, we've got the contract signed, and we're exploring other options for her. I mean, that mindset is crazy in some people.
And that'll be a good story for if she learns from it and reflects and moves forward. Some people, that just scares them out of the game. That's unfortunate.
But you're right. It does. It scares a lot of people out of the game.
But it reminds me of another book, Survivor's Guide. And it talks about, there's a lot of examples of even professional folks in various fields so you were in the military, and so soldiers, they practice over and over and over and over again on various scenarios. So that way, when that scenario happens, it's reflex. They know what to do, because if they don't, when a situation happens, they freeze. And in that situation, you freeze, people get hurt or die. So, but that situation, you do that in everything, regardless of what it is. In real estate, like, you need to know, hey, when a contract busts out, this is what we're going to do. We're going to check comps again. We're going to call the agent, see what went wrong. Like, what could you maybe fix to salvage the contract? Can you put it back in the market? Can you, and then maybe check rental comps as a backup. But you've already actually, even before you bought the property, pulled the comps. You should know that you pulled the rental comps just as a backup, explored refinances, whether it's cash out or just rate and term, and explore that. So that way, when those situations happen, you're not having to focus on what should I do. You know the options, and now you just got to take the next step. So I would imagine she put very little thought of what to do on the front end. So when it came in the back end, it was all confusing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and that's absolutely true. But the one thing that I told her, I was like, look, we need to get you involved with some sort of mentorship group or get you starting to read some books, mm-hmm. because you can't sit back. And this has been going on for more than just a month. It's been going on for like 6 weeks.
In the hottest market that we've ever witnessed.
and I was like, you cannot do this anymore to yourself. I was like, if you ever get into a issue to where you're not able to move forward, give me a call. We'll work it out. We'll talk it out. I mean, that you got to have somebody in your corner, whether it be Chris Bounce, Jason Bible, anybody that you can pick up the phone and call. You've got to have those people that you can lean on to say, hey, I'm in a situation. I told her, I was like, anytime that you're involved in a situation that you're not sure of, call me and let's work it out.
Yeah.
And
here's another thing. Usually, because we all think we're smart enough to get ourselves out of the situation we put ourselves in. But if we really were, then we probably wouldn't be in that situation to begin with. That's where that network of resources helps, those professional guidance. So that's where, I'm in this odd spot. Hey, want to give Rob a call? Hey, you've worked with a lot of investors. What have you seen folks do in this situation? And I do that. Hey, and I've got a call next week with an attorney because I'm starting to buy more multifamilies, and we're contemplating creating an open fund. And so I've already had multiple conversations on one angle. Now I've got to have another conversation. Hey, what are you seeing investors at that next level? What are they doing with this and this and this? And how are they approaching the situations? How are they drawing the lines with the relationship that they're having, and all kinds of other stuff. So, because I don't know, but he does, because he does this for a living.
Yeah.
Work with those. That's how you learn and grow.
So you've been in the industry, almost 20 years now, right?
Not full time. I mean, 2005, that's the first about 4 houses at college. Took a break. My business partner graduated, flew out of state, so we didn't do anything else together. In 2011, got married. Jamie tells this story much better than I do. So she knew what I did in college, but I got a regular job now. I'd already sold the rentals, and it was like weeks after getting married, I dropped this bomb in her lap because she grew up traditional, like she's a teacher. And I was like, hey babe, I want to go flip some houses again. And she's like, but she's very supportive. And then when we got our first couple deals, which y'all funded,
I can see that right now. You just got married.
She was on the couch in the living room. I came out of the office.
Just got married. I've got this guy. He's got this great job, and he's secure. And he walks in, and I think I'm secure. And he's like, I think I want to go flip some houses. Okay.
But yeah, we talked through it. She was supportive, and then when we got our first deal, which y'all funded, and then she was like, "Oh, okay, this thing does work." And we got another one. Y'all funded that one too. But since 2011, got licensed in 2014, 2015 went full time. Throughout that whole time, we flipped 200 or so houses. Now we're moving into multifamily, because ultimately my realization in 2018 came, and I'm realizing this because I'm getting pressure. Competition, market's hot, margins are dropping, and flipping's my main business. And then along the way, we also got some bad deals, and so
you're gonna have that. You're
always gonna have it, especially when you're buying 30, 40 a year. And I'm like, we got into this whole game to build wealth and passive income. Flipping houses does not do that.
Nope.
Wholesaling houses does not do that. Working a traditional job does not do that. As a realtor, selling commissions does not do it, because once you do the work, you get paid, and it's a good way to make money. But you don't build wealth with passive income because you'll never make money from that transaction again.
Traditional ways do not work to build passive income and generational wealth.
So we went back to the drawing boards. Like, we need to hold more. We need to stop selling these things. Grant Cardone said that too. He was talking to wholesalers. They go, all you wholesalers out there getting these properties under contract for less than you can build them, stop throwing away the paper. Buy them. Stop throwing away the asset. Hold the asset. So we went back to the drawing boards and like, hey, how can we hold more? Because we had a few rentals, but all of our rentals they did the best.
Mm-hmm.
Our first rental, the very first deal that we did, that y'all funded, we made over $100,000 gross. That allowed me to quit my job. Like the very
you heard it here, folks.
The second deal, y'all funded, we made $120,000 gross. That happened like a couple months after the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so we just went back to the drawing board. How can we minimize operational expenses, stop flipping, hold more, and create in a way where we can still eat, still have a comfortable life, hold more assets, and build wealth? So we did that. And a lot of other things happened. We joined EXP Realty, which kind of aligned with that whole wealth and passive income plan. And yeah, now we're in the multifamily.
So, natural state of progression. A couple of houses, did them, kind of got out of it, then got back into it, started flipping, built your liquidity capital or whatever you want to call it. And then you said, you know what, I've got to make a switch because I need passive income so that I can stop working so hard and just have this money coming in. So you turn to rentals.
Yeah,
that is 90% of what all investors that have made it successful, and that's their natural state of growth.
Yeah. That or lending.
Yeah, or lending.
Yeah,
yeah.
Usually it's both. But
yeah. All right, so let's talk about EXP for a little bit.
All right.
So we've guys, y'all have heard Chris's success story, his trigger point of what got him to where he needed to be. But now we're supposed to talk about something we love both, and that's EXP. And I don't talk about it enough because I'm busy lending, but I want you to talk about it and as much as you can.
Yeah, and so in full honesty, I'm brokerage agnostic. I got licensed in 2014 to support my business. I still had a job. Like, I did not get licensed to be a traditional realtor. I didn't know anything about traditional real estate and all that. I joined some flat fee brokerage. They were fine. But in 2018, when a very successful investor, and I mean, we were acquaintances. We weren't like close friends, but I respected him. He called me and goes, hey, I want you to check out this thing. I did not want to go to that meeting. And I've told him that.
Yeah.
But I respected him enough. Like, okay, he's investing time in this. There's probably something to it. Heard him out. And I was like, cool. And he basically said, hey, look, we're out there. We're doing our investing thing, building wealth, passive income. This brokerage allows you to do that too. So for me, in my position, it was a very, very easy transition.
Yes.
Like instant, yes. Cool. Why not? I didn't understand the traditional real estate and the realtor business. And I had to go learn that to understand like what are agents, what are their wants and needs and pain points. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, right now, the traditional real estate agent and the traditional brokerage, whether it's any of the franchises out there, and they're all great companies, but when it comes down to it, you're working very hard for your clients, and you're going to continue to do that and make a lot of money over 5, 10, 20 years, whatever your career is. But when it comes down to selling it, or when you want to retire, or you have to retire because of circumstance, your business has zero equity. If you would have spent 5, 10, 20 years building a boutique flower shop when you're done and you want to retire, your business has equity. Like
yes.
You actually could take the multiplier for whatever it is industry, 2 times, 3 times gross revenue or whatever it is, and sell it, gone, use that money for retirement. The traditional agent does not have that option unless you go out and build like this 100 agent brokerage or this mega team. And most people don't want to do that or desire to. But with EXP, they allow us to earn equity in our business in every single transaction and also earn the cap back and equity in the business every single year. And I'm like, you extrapolate that over time, that's a lot of money. That now the agent, you have the choice. That money goes to your broker where you are now, or that money can go in your account, which ultimately benefits you, your spouse, your kids, your grandkids, your retirement, whatever you want. And the choice is yours, and whatever you make, and, you know, folks will make the best decision for themselves. But that was one side of it. And then the other side, which this personally, just for me, resonated because I like rental properties, I like passive income. And it was the revenue share. Like, I'm talking with agents all the time. We already, because y'all were sponsors at our local event, we're teaching people how to build wealth and passive income, and being able to do that through the revenue share program has been amazing. It's life changing, and it's created some partnerships and collaboration opportunities that never before existed. We already had it with y'all because y'all are local in our market. But we didn't have it with other folks in other markets. And there's a good case study of this guy I met in San Diego. Jamie and I spoke at an event. Afterwards, we talked with him. He came up, he caught us right before we were about to run out of the place and enjoy San Diego. Talked with him. He's going to get his license. He's an Air Force pilot that was grounded because he had cancer, but he's a cancer survivor. The government's still not going to let him fly, though. So he's like kind of planning his next moves, gets his license. He lives in Destin, Florida.
Oh, wow. We
get on a Zoom call.
Great real estate there.
Very hot vacation spot.
Very hot vacation spot. Very hot.
He gets his real estate license, and the dude crushes it. Like, I mean, he's a go-getter, military officer, crushes it part-time, investing and doing a couple of retail stuff here and there. Then he goes full-time. He gets his retirement. He goes full-time. He's at Icon, which is where you get your cat back. Now 2 years in a row, he's bought several hundred units of multifamily properties. We collaborate. And then he's got like a team of like 70 agents on his team, a couple of which live in Houston, one of which I hired in my company back when we had big operations, another of which, you know, I've met at various networking events. So there's this collaboration that never before existed, but now we can all work together and share ideas and loan money on their deals, or they need partnerships to get in on these mobile home parks or whatever. It's just been, it's a full circle.
It's kind of a symbiote relationship.
I know it's crazy. It's one of those things like at A&M, they say on the inside looking out, you can't explain it. On the outside looking in, you can't understand it.
Hey, look at here. We got our first comment.
Hey, what's going on?
There are people watching.
All right.
Thank you, Chris. I met Rob at your REI meetup in Richmond, who introduced me to EHAB and funded my first deal.
All right. Good job.
Hey, see, it's all about literally, and this is the perspective that I've used. I'm going to tell you, we'll end on this because I could talk about this for about another 9-10 minutes. When I first started at Jet Lending, this is just a way for me to make play money. When we're going to talk about turning points, or what did you call it?
Pattern interrupt.
Pattern interrupt. I saw the potential of what I could do here. 1 month, I closed a bunch of loans, and I liked it. I liked the way that you
enjoyed the process.
Yes. Oh, this is Heather. Thank you, Heather. I did not know that we met at Chris's REI. I did not know that. And no offense, but I do meet a lot of people at those events. Yeah. But anyways, I was not in the right. Johnny will tell you, I'm one of the biggest success stories he's ever seen walk through this door, and I'm his brother-in-law. He told me, I mean, we would sit down and have conversations after conversations. He said, Rob, you got a lot of potential, but you got to get your mindset right if you want to close, this amount of loans. And I never really took it seriously. I was just like, okay, hey, it's extra money in my pocket. I've got retirement coming in. I've got this coming in, and I was content.
Yeah.
I was going to do this until I got tired of it.
And then, being content, being in a good life gets in the way of a great life.
Yes. No, that is exactly what I'm about to get to. There was this situation that I saw the potential, and I was like, okay, I want better. I want more.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing research. I started mindset change. I started talking to people. I talked to Ehab a couple of times. We sat down, had lunch. He's been a good friend. He's helped me change my mindset. It's been night and day. And then I met my wife. And when I met my wife, it was like, okay, playtime's over.
There you go.
I can't be this just little, person that's barely getting by.
Yeah.
I want to provide everything for this woman.
And that's me too. Because when I got married, now thinking of wife, family, kids, retirement. Mm-hmm. That's why I dropped that, whole let's do flipping houses.
Yeah, I was just like, I've got to provide this woman, because she had a little girl, mm-hmm. and we were going to have kids, and I knew that I had to change who I was and what I was doing, so I changed that, and I changed my approach to jet lending. And I came in here and I started killing it every day. Right mindset, right thing. Hey, look, I'm gonna do the right thing here.
Yeah.
Next thing, health and fitness. It took a turning point, but I used the same approach that I used mindset. I've got to change the way I think upstairs to get these legs to walk into a gym, mm-hmm. and get this mouth to stop eating junk. And I if you practice it long enough and you keep up with the same stuff and be consistent in what you do, you will change your outcome eventually.
Absolutely.
Little changes day by day will make you a better person in the long run.
True. And a good book on that is Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read it, but I read a couple of books, and then I read that one, and it summarized a lot of stuff, summarized some of the stuff Tony Robbins said.
Yeah.
I used to chew my nails since I was a kid. And then just one of the little simple things they talked about in that book, overnight, I don't chew my nails anymore. Yeah. It's weird, and I know that's a disgusting habit, especially to my wife. She hated that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't stop it, and I found it was just reflex. I would just do it, but I haven't done it since. And it was just like a couple pages in there. It was like, do this, and I was like, but yeah, habit.
Yeah.
You formed a new habit.
You form a new habit. You form a new way of doing things, and it all pays off in the long run. I tell you, and the whole reason I started this Trigger Points was hopefully, we've had people come on and off. You see that little eye up there at the corner. Right now, there's 9 people watching. Mm-hmm. There's been up to 15 watching. Hopefully, somebody will go back and watch this episode or watch any of the episodes and get some knowledge and say, you know what, those guys are doing it. I interviewed Alberto, which is one of Ehab's students last week. In 1 year, he has done 5 projects. Damn. And he just got a check for 100. Well, I ain't gonna put his business out, but it was triple digits. Yeah. It was triple digits. Last Friday, he got a check for triple digits.
I'm sure it's life changing.
Yeah, or 6 digits, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I was just like, and he was so happy, and I said, man, I'm happy for you too as well. But he watched one of my videos and linked up with Ehab.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this is to hopefully people will know that they can reach out to you for advice. They can reach out to Jet Lending for their lending. They can there's a whole bunch of people in this industry that are willing to help you grow, because if you grow, we grow. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest thing out of real estate that I have learned. It's a lot like a family. Yeah. If you get involved with the right people that will surround yourself and build your team around them, those guys will eventually, it'll pay forward, and you have to pay it forward.
Yeah, your network really is your net worth, and that's a cliche term. I'm an introvert, so that's challenging for me, but people are going to get started. I just tell them, pick a couple networking events, go to them consistently.
Do you know Dana Pena, that old guy?
I know the name. I don't know that
He's a really old guy. He's kind of like an older motivational speaker.
Yeah. I see him on TikTok.
Yeah, he's on TikTok. Yeah, he's screaming at the crowd.
He's rough around the edges.
But he says that Introverts are laser focused on what they want to do. They're some of the most top performers as introverts.
That's true.
And there's nothing wrong with being an introvert. He said the opposite end of the spectrum is me, the hyperactive, ADHD.
Well, it's your Grant Cardone and then your Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Grant Cardone's all over the place. You know,
Yeah.
that guy. I think we've got a lot of the same personality, like in your face, trying to motivate you type. And then you've got your introverts that, you know, are laser focused on what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need both those type of people in your life to keep you on the right path.
You do. You typically marry the other side too. Or
I didn't. See, I married the introvert.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I married the introvert. So I guess I did.
So you did. Yeah,
I did.
Jamie's an extrovert. So.
Yeah, I married the introvert. My wife, she doesn't like going out. She doesn't like doing anything. And I'm like, hey, it's social birthday. It's Friday night. Let's go. Come on. You know, what we going to do?
Hey, I love COVID. Like, I mean, I know it's been horrible. But from a whole like staying at home thing, I was like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Other than Jim, I don't need.
She loved it. She loved it or loved it too from that type of standpoint, because I couldn't come on Friday night and say, let's go do something. Come on, let's go. And now every weekend I'll ask her, are we going to do something? Mm-hmm. And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So I guess I've become a little bit less active since being at home with her, because we have fun with the kids and stuff, getting the pool play and all that stuff. So it's always good to spend that time that you miss during the week and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
Well, hey, look, man, we've already hit an hour. Time flies when you're having fun. I appreciate you coming on the show.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Love working with y'all, and I mean, we
you're still doing your event.
We brought it. So COVID, we couldn't do it local. We brought it online, and that has evolved into a whole different thing. Invested Agents. So if you want to connect with me, investedagents.com, and it's got all our socials, including Facebook and Instagram, where you can connect with us. But we do live events, and some virtual, some in person. Like, we've got an EXP event. We're teaching on lead generation in Houston, live and in person, next Wednesday at the Total Wealth Academy. So if you're in Houston, you want to learn about lead generation, come on out. And
you need to call him.
Yeah.
Lead generation is important, especially in any business.
Yep. Especially
real estate or real estate investors. You got to find out where to get your leads from. I had a guy ask me at the event the other night, hey, man, how do I find deals? I was like, I guess the secret will come one day.
Yeah.
Guys, next week, we're going to be interviewing the new staff here at Jet Lending, and we may have a gender reveal right here on Trigger Points. First ever. We may have a gender reveal. So if you're watching this, tune in next Friday, because I've got my whole staff that's going to be up here. We're going to introduce them. We got a new 30-year department, one guy that handles all of our 30-year out-of-state correspondent loans. His name's Eric. We're going to be talking to him one-on-one. We're going to be talking to Chelsea, Jamie. And then if everything works out right, we're going to do a gender reveal right after the show. So
that'll be exciting.
Hopefully. And my wife went and got all the stuff done yesterday. She said, well, maybe 2 weeks. And I'm like, they always say 2 weeks. It's usually about 5 days.
Yeah.
So hopefully, if not, we will do it the next week. So
anyway, stay tuned.
Yeah. Stay tuned next week. Chris, again, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all next week. We're out here.